Heidi Hollis joins us as we talk about the Hat Man. I see the Hat Man and Holy Encounters and all these things still keep happening, don't they?
Oh, George, it's an epidemic out there. I don't know what is going on, but the earth seems to be reflecting a lot of the negativity going out there, as well as these negative experiences that people are having. I don't know. It's like a sign of the times, and I'm kind of piecing it together like, hold on, everything just seems to be taking another level of just rottenness. And, my heart goes out to the folks out in Vegas. Truly, truly disappointing and sad.
What creates, Heidi, in your opinion, this kind of evil that is out there? I mean, we're going to talk about the Hat Man, and your subtitle of that book is True Story of Evil Encounters. Why is there so much darn evil out there?
I keep beating myself over the head with the same question, and the thing that keeps coming to mind is like there has to be a yin and a yang. Apparently, I don't get it, but I have this gut instinct that tells me that we don't have to accept the evil. We don't have to accept death, even. I mean, that there is something more out there that is on our side, that we don't have to play victim to it.
I mean, I keep thinking of the evil involved in this Las Vegas episode where, 59 people are dead, 527 wounded. And, these are people who went to a concert to have a nice time. They were in Las Vegas. And, I mean, their lives have been taken or ruined by this episode. Families have been ruined by this episode. I mean, to me, there's got to be something wrong with society to create these individuals who would do these heinous acts.
I don't know what snaps in them. I think a lot of them, they're simply suicidal, and they want to go out with a bang and be known for something. And unfortunately, it's about bringing down others, and that it's just disgusting. I don't understand the motives behind anyone who would want to do such a thing.
There's a prime example, too, there of a multimillionaire where money can't buy you love. He was obviously a very unhappy person.
Yes. I just heard that as well, and I'm like, okay, millionaire buys, machine gun. What on earth?
Doesn't make any sense. It
doesn't. It really doesn't. Just it shakes your head. And I have to say, too, a lot of people that I know just won't watch the news. And I'm like, well, how does that help anything? And how does that help us all as a whole who are trying to combat some of the stuff that's going on out there? I'd rather be informed and, make a difference somehow, some way, instead of sitting in the dark. And I think that we all do our part by being informed and keeping an eye out for each other.
When you have talked about holy encounters before, exactly what do you mean by that?
Holy encounters I kind of group into as being angelic and Mother Mary and Jesus encounters. For myself, I really love the stories that go along with Jesus encounters because it's something that I personally experienced that I would have never expected or suspected it would happen to me because I was such a huge skeptic of such things. I had, honestly, in my first book, The Secret War, I bashed the thought that people were seeing Jesus in everything from a tree trunk to their bowl of soup, and I'm like, come on now. I'd seen some strange things and some beings that I might classify as being angelic even, but I knew it wasn't Jesus. I'm like, I think people were totally mistaken what they were witnessing as Jesus just because of the white robe thing. But I really didn't believe in that, and I took really great pride in picking on my friends who made an effort to go to church. I mean, I believed in God. I said my prayers, but I felt that Jesus was like a historical figure that had done his thing, and thank you, and it was done. And I put in the Secret War book that if Jesus were around, I think I would have seen him by now. I was really that skeptical, and
wow, almost blasphemy, Heidi.
I know, and just before getting that put out there, that Secret War book, and I was like, it took me 2 months to write that book and 4 years to get it published. So it was just like me reworking it a little bit here and there while I was waiting on a publisher. And I had an encounter that blew my mind and changed my tune and caused me to have to rewrite parts of that book before it went out.
What happened to you?
Oh my gosh! So this was July 19th, 1999, and I was a college student. I had a college roommate. I came home. I had a strange work schedule. I worked from 5 in the morning till 12 noon. I worked at a bakery. I'd go make the donuts. I'd go home and take a nap, and then go to class. So I came home. It's broad daylight out. I told my roommate, could you turn the TV down? I'm going to go take a power nap. And, George, this is just the craziest thing. I go into my bedroom, and I go to lay down, and it was as if I fell through the bed and hit the ground.
Jeez.
And it was
like into another dimension?
Oh, my gosh, yes. It was that physical. It was that, boom, where the heck am I? When I go to lay down, you flap your pillow, you pull your blankets or whatever, turn the fan on because it was summer. My head never touched that pillow. And I'm like, whoa, what the heck just happened here? I'm looking around. I'm laying on a cement ground, and I'm like pulling myself up, and I'm like, where the heck am I? I realize and recognize that I am on the porch of my parents' home. And I'm like, wow, how did I get here? I'm trying to explain to my head, well, I guess I was planning to come and meet a family friend here, later in the week. Maybe I came here. I was totally trying to play it out. And I look down, my parents live in the country, and there's this long driveway, and I see this man walking up the driveway, and I'm like, I think that is the family friend. His name is Quincy. And I'm like, is that Quincy? I think that may be him. And just almost immediate, George, just recognition, oh my gosh, that is not Quincy. And I have a silly demeanor. That's just me. I'm a cartoonist. I can't help myself.
Right.
I put my face in my hands, and I'm like, this is not happening. Oh my goodness. This man comes right up to me. And with the most friendliest voice, as if he was going to talk about the weather, he's like, hello. I'm like, hello. I still have my face in my hands. And he said, do you know who I am? If you knew who I was, you would not hesitate to say it. And I just started to pull my hands away from my face, and I'm stuttering. And I'm like, whoa, you're Jesus. And I don't speak Spanish. I don't know why I called him Jesus. And he said, yes, I am. And when I looked...
Did he look like the pictures we've seen depicted on paintings?
It kind of. I did not get to see his face. His robes were a little off-white, and I could see shoulder-length hair, but literally, sunlight was
the robes covered his face?
No, not the robes, but the sun was, behind his head, and it shadowed his face tremendously. Yeah, and I'm looking up, and I'm like, this is really happening. And he started talking. It was just so much about his life and what he aimed to do and how so much more needed to be done. And I am still me going, holy crap, this is going on. I'm touching the cement ground.
You said that to Jesus, just like
in
that?
my head.
Oh.
In my head.
Well, he could read your mind, that.
Yes, actually, because he called me out on it, essentially.
By the way, Heidi, this is a family show, So
I know. I'm keeping it clean. Right. But, I'm just in a state of shock. And I'm totally not paying attention to everything he's telling me because I am just not understanding how I got there, why he's there. And I guess he noticed I wasn't paying attention, and he got silent. And that's when I pulled my attention. First off, I should say, I remember exclaiming in my head, why is the ground so close to me? And I exclaimed in my head, I'm on my knees. I don't remember going on my knees, And that's when he stopped talking, and then I felt like a kid being caught passing notes in class or something, and I look up to him, and I'm stuttering again, and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And he kind of helped me stand up, and he said, first you need to show us some things. And I'm like, who's us? I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking about his father. I'm like, and he started telling me, like, so much stuff. Like, it was almost like things I knew I wasn't meant to remember, and it was just so much. And I could see his mouth moving. It was interesting. It was like a pane of glass was between the two of us, where my ears couldn't hear him, but my soul did.
Now, this is not a dream?
No. This was so incredible. This is just absolutely tremendous, because it goes on where he told me, I used to be painfully shy. I bet you'd never believe that, right, George?
Yeah, exactly.
But I gave up grades in college. I was getting a medical degree, and to give up any grades in college because I didn't want to speak in public, to do presentations, I would just make sure I got straight A's and everything else. And so he told me, don't worry what others think. Know that I'll be there to give you the words. And, still to this day, before I even come on your show, or if I do my own shows, I look to the heavens and I'm like, you promised me, you give me the words, now I'm holding you to it. Because I don't have anything to say. For him, yes, I can do this stuff. Who would think that this paranormal lady, this is where she gets her strength from, but that is where I get my strength from. But to fast forward a bit, it's just absolutely incredible. There's more to that story, what took place.
But you're convinced you're convinced it was a visitation from Jesus.
The love that comes off from him, it's just so, you just can't describe it.
Well, I guess I would call that a holy encounter.
That is holy. It is truly holy. And, people say, how do you know it was him? And I'm like, I could have been blind and seen it was him, because every cell in my body screamed his name, truly. I went to wake up. Now, this is where it gets dark. You'll dig this. So I'm coming back to my body, and I feel my bed beneath me, and I'm like, the love sensation that you get, you just don't want it to go away. So I am like not wanting to move. And I'm like, this was so incredible, when all of a sudden I felt as if I was being robbed of my ability to move. And it's weird. I felt like my soul was ripped from my body.
By whom?
And thrown into this very odd presence. I was in a similar rendition of where I was in front of my parents' home, with a demon coming over my shoulder with solid black eyes, saying with a snake-like voice, "Are you sure of what you saw?" And, I mean, I can't even tell you. I get chills every time I think about it.
Like trying to trick you?
Trying to get me to deny what it was I'd witnessed. And, after going out to people and talking about what it was I experienced, I didn't know this, but people said because you had that follow-up experience with this demonic presence, that really tells them that I did have a holy encounter experience, because that's very typical. And sure enough, I've found that is typical. People have an encounter with Jesus, and something evil comes at them at some point. Mine was so immediate, and it was so just a horrific situation. So that was my first encounter. I woke up. I was a believer. My friends that know me, who I loved teasing about going to church, they're like, all I kept saying to people was, Jesus is no joke. And that's why I named my book Jesus is No Joke, because, changed my tune. And I got to see him 3 more times that I put in the book, so 4 times total in that book, but I'd seen him another time as well after that book was done. And it's my highest rated book. People don't realize it was number 1 on Amazon for 8 months.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge,
yeah.
Heidi. I want to talk about the Hat Man for a moment. Explain to a lot of people who don't know what the Hat Man is or who it is.
Well, unfortunately, if they don't know, they will at some point. He is not just becoming a possibility. He's becoming a threat out there to everyone.
Not to be confused with Slenderman, right?
Not to be, he is not Slenderman. I believe potentially the person that came up with that whole Slenderman thing may have experienced the Hat Man and kind of put a fictional twist on it.
Right. I think so too.
Hat Man is essentially a being. He's not a shadow person. I made the mistake. I came on your show and I call him Hat Man Shadow. He is a being. He is very solid. He's very real. Yes, he could look somewhat like a shadow, but he wears a suit, three-piece suit, trench coat or cape, a gaucho-type hat, a fedora-type hat, a cowboy hat, I've even heard.
How about one of those chimney-type hats?
Yes, the top hat as well. And, sometimes he's clean-shaven if people get to see his skin, or it's not. He's very pale, solid black eyes sometimes, but usually glowing red eyes, absolutely intimidating. And he is not small. This guy, when he steps into the room, he usually has to bend over for his back to kind of press up against the top of the ceiling. He is a big guy.
Why do I picture Abraham Lincoln when you mentioned the Hat Man?
Yeah. A lot of people kind of see that type of entity. And, something is a little strange out there, and this is kind of newer that I've not put out there. But when he has a cape on, he usually has a top hat on. And he also tends to show his teeth. Some people call this the grinning man or the smiling man.
Huh.
And
do you see his features on his face?
Yeah, people do. But he can also be shadowed as well.
All right, but you could see his eyes and nose and all that.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Not always, but a lot of people do.
All right.
And but the same feeling is there of absolute dread and horror and looking into the eyes of something that is the most evil on high. And, coming upon that Slender Man story, that story is so, I get asked about it so often, and I'm trying to find my dates here on something because this is an interesting fact when it comes to the Slender Man.
And Slender Man was a creation, right, of a person who just started writing about it?
Yes, honestly. So it was a competition that it's like a modern day boogeyman type of thing that was put out there. It was a Photoshop contest by Eric Knudsen. June 10th, 2009, he created it for that contest. Now, this is an interesting fact. Now, I published my book on Hat Man May 12th, 2014.
Okay.
The attack that those two little girls attacked another child, and she survived. That happened May 31st of 2014, about a 20-minute drive from where I grew up.
What's the significance of that?
You know what?
A Hat Man influence, you think?
The Hat Man is so responsive. I can't even tell you. I had an encounter with this freaking thing.
Well, hold on for a second, Heidi. We're already at the break. We're going to come back and talk about the Hat Man, and I want you to give us some of those true stories of evil encounters that we'll talk about right here on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back. We'll take phone calls next hour with Heidi Hollis. Now we talk about the Hat Man. Tell us some of these evil encounters. What's so evil about the Hat Man, Heidi?
Well, yeah, I wanted to finish up really quick with how responsive the Hat Man is, because he came 15 minutes after speaking of him, and the sightings of him have increased so much, and so have the sightings of Jesus. So Jesus encounters, Hat Man encounters, it's like whatever side of the fence you're on, it seems that they are showing up to that person. But I've also had many people write me who have experienced both Jesus encounters and Hat Man. So fence sitters beware. As far as some of the more interesting stories, you'll find this one pretty cool. I had a lady write me telling me how she had personally experienced the Hat Man many times for many years, and it was something that was just a part of her life. And this is pretty common, actually. And it started getting rather intense, especially when her and her boyfriend were fighting quite a bit. And eventually they broke up. The boyfriend moved out. She met another guy, became engaged. Now, the ex-boyfriend started experiencing the Hat Man. And he was so distraught that he started calling her pretty regularly saying, did you send him? Why is this going on? What's happening? And she would always tell him, I told you, he shows up when there's negativity going on. And they literally bonded over this occurrence. She ended up breaking up with her fiance, and the ex-boyfriend came back into her life. I am not kidding. It is just absolutely, the things. So Hatman is bringing people together in odd ways.
Well, where does the evil in the Hatman come from?
I'll tell you, this is something that a lot of people are fighting for themselves, and that I've seen the pattern over the thousands of emails that I've gotten, is Hatman is looking to control the person and their gifts. It's as if he waits around trying to find what is the thing that makes them special to be able to see him so well, first of all, and to be able to tolerate his presence. And so he tries to break them down and to put them essentially hovering in a corner, and then he asks them to work for him. And this pattern of him doing that, breaking people down, getting them to essentially isolate themselves and feel powerless, and then giving people these instructions through dreams. He loves to come to people in dreams and showing them what he needs of them. Now, I had a very interesting story that was sent to me that just mind-boggling. This gentleman was in his basement, and all of a sudden, and Hatman loves to do this, he comes and he shows up out of nowhere, big and tall, and he's like, what on earth, and who is this man? And Hatman drew his attention to his wall and pointed at the wall. And he said the wall became this scene out on the ocean. And it was like having a huge storm, and he saw this boat out on the ocean. And a man, obviously the captain, steps out from the cabinet, and he's looking out at them. And the ship starts to go down and sink into the water. And the man is, of course, that's watching this is freaked out. And then the Hatman turns to him and said, such a man would do this for me. So he's asking people to give their lives to him. And I had a coworker that came to me once in private. This was many years ago, talking to me about how they had experienced this Hatman over in the Philippines. And I'm like, well, and this is another very common thing that a lot of people may not often hear. Him being around instances of death. She knew her father was dying. Her and her family were staying outside of the room and waiting and trying to make sure he was comfortable and everything when they heard the door open. And the Hatman walked out and walked through the wall. I don't understand him opening up a door just to walk through a wall, but almost as if to let people know, look, this is me, and he wants to be recognized. He really wants to be recognized, because otherwise he'd come as any other form, any other shape. But he comes as he is for a reason. But so they ran in and they found that her father had passed away. And I'd spoken to a near-death experiencer author on my show, and everything's always love and light with near-death experience authors especially, and I'm like, come on now, everybody's not getting the love and light. I mean, there's too much evil that I get emails about to know that it's not all fluffy. And she was honest with me. She's like, well, yeah, there is this really strange phenomena. The people that don't have those positive near-death experiences, they see this strange man in a hat. She had not heard of my work on the Hatman, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Heidi, do people report seeing red, beady eyes on this thing?
They're not beady. They're solid. They're normal sized eyes, and they're solid, glowing red. Yes, that is very common with him, and very piercing, very telling, very paralyzing. And this is strange. So I used to attribute Hatman to being I don't know, like he didn't want to get his suit wrinkled or something. He would send in his baddies, his thugs, to rough people up generally.
Who were they? Were they other hat people?
Oh, no, shadow people, shadow beings, the ones that look like shadow spiders, head and shoulder shadows, any shape or form, cloudy shadows. And he would send those in, or the Grim Reaper-looking being. That one is very common. And the old hag has been seen next to Hatman. So he'll direct them to do the dirty work. But Hatman's been getting his hands dirtier lately. He's really liking to dig in and slap people around and beat them up. I had an email that was sent to me in regards to this gentleman. He'd experienced Hatman for many years. And it scared him, but he didn't feel really threatened because Hatman never did anything, honestly. It would make him run and hide from this guy. One evening, he fell asleep on his couch, and Hatman came and started pressing him so far and so hard into the couch, he literally could not breathe and was just about to pass out when Hatman started taking him by his throat and his chest and throwing him up and down on the couch violently.
Does Hatman ever try to kill somebody or hurt somebody?
I believe so. I can't recall if I shared this one story where if he doesn't try to harm someone or have one of his baddies or thugs do it, he'll encourage a person to kill themselves. And
to kill themselves.
To kill themselves. This is oh my gosh! I'm a therapist, and I had a student working under me, and the whispers. Oh, that's a lady that writes the odd books, and and see,
you've been coined already, right?
Yeah, it's whatever. I have a good time with this stuff, and she's like, "What kinds of books?" And I said, "Oh, and these odd things." And I mentioned Hatman, and she turned ghost white, and she said, "I've never told anybody this." She said, "I was about 3 years old. I saw the outlet, and there was a fork laying on the floor. I looked at the fork, I looked at the outlet, and I knew my mom said never to put anything in those things." She said, and all of a sudden, an extremely tall man, so tall he had to bend over, hunched, and he came all the way down within mere inches of her face and said, "Go ahead, stick it in." I mean, encouraging a 3-year-old to kill herself? I mean, what's his limit?
That's pure evil. That is pure evil.
That is the worst. And it's like, how many people has he killed? Who survived to tell the story? And I've had many, and this is an unspoken thing that a lot of people, women especially, but also men, who will let me know that Hatman has raped them, sexually violated them. And it's one of the most demeaning things I think that people don't like to address. And I understand they'll try to focus on this, or that, but they kind of hint to him getting a little bit too close and too personal. And
in your opinion, what is the Hatman? Is it an entity? It's not physical? So where does it come from? Where does it hail from?
That's the thing. He is very physical. He is seen in broad daylight, walking.
Like a person?
He is like a person. He will step into the shadows where it's like he almost blends, but he's got distinctive edges. He's not like a shadow person where it's a little blurred, a little out of focus. He is very solid. He could step from those shadows. And as in one instance, he stole this gentleman's replica of Freddy Krueger's hat, and I'm not kidding.
And wore it?
Yeah. Yes, he did. They never found the hat again, and he was highly disturbed the rest of his life. He and his brother would see this thing come out of the closet, this man come out of the closet. He didn't have a hat at the time, and when you think about it, Freddy Krueger kind of wears the Hat Man's hat.
Do they all have red eyes?
Not always. Sometimes if his skin is seen, you'll see just solid black eyes. But but his red eyes are pretty distinctive most times. And I think that he likes to instill that fear. He's aiming for a respectful fear. I had this experience just before I put out my book on him. Now, at the time, I won't look at him. I will not look at him, but he will try his best. He has been behind me. I've had patients scream.
What happens if you look at him? You turn to salt or what?
It's a paralyzing fear. I think his eyes are kind of a hypnotizing type of a way of getting control over someone. And he would definitely get respectful fear out of anyone who looks at him. And I knew he had stepped in my room this night. And I was curious, like, what? How dare he have the nerve to come to my room? Because I don't put up with any of that. And I waited. I wouldn't open my eyes to look at him. And so he sat on my bed, and he waited some more. And I'm like, what? Come on. What is this, a standoff? And then, I am not kidding you, George, he stretched out across the base of my bed, and I could feel him prop his head on his elbow as if to wait for me to look at him. And, I tell people to break that, to get rid of him, more immediate, is to say the name of Jesus. And I had waited too long, apparently, George, because I started to speak and I couldn't. I was paralyzed. And it took great force for me to finally utter the words, and then, boom, he was gone. And the imprint was left on my bed, so I know he was there. And this was just before putting the book out. And that's, right after that, I had the encounter at my job. He was going after my patients.
Are they all evil? The Hat Man?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
No good ones in the bunch, huh?
Oh, gosh, no. Some people feel that he may be a guardian just because they're not afraid. I'm like, well, good for you, but don't get too comfortable with him, because once you let your guard down, that's when he'll make his mark. And he may literally make his mark he likes to bite, scratch, punch.
Does he try to kill?
I believe he does. I had one gentleman tell me how he was drugged out into the trash cans and was flung through the air and smashed into them, and just like fighting for his life. And Hatman was levitated off the ground and just punching wildly, just an all-out brawl. I believe he has tried to kill people on one too many occasions.
Why have you been so fortunate, Heidi, that you haven't really been attacked yet?
This is one of the things that
Do you have like really a barrier up around you or something?
I don't let my guard down. And that's one of the things is in my book, The Hat Man, I try to tell people how they can get rid of him and keep him away. That's something that I had to learn as far as shadow people and the Hat Man and negative aliens on top of it, who all work together, mind you. I mentioned that in the book, too, a couple of experiences that people have had. But, yeah, I protect my home. I protect myself. You won't see me without a cross around my neck, because it's what I use to bless my home and to bless myself in order to stay protected. Having had the Jesus encounters that I mentioned, that I would not be able to do what I'm doing had I not had those experiences with Jesus. I really would not. I didn't know that I needed to have that, but people tell me, how do I get rid of this Hat Man? Oh, but I don't believe in that religious stuff, so what do I do? And I'm like, well, then throw a shoe at it, because you really need your faith to do that. And that's why I'm putting out a book any day, actually, called The Other F Word for Faith. So people, I keep getting so many people that say they don't know what to do. They don't believe in this or that because, whatever static is going on in their faith. So I'm like, well, gosh, how can you break people down to realize you're looking into the eyes of pure evil? You better hope there's an opposite force out there.
You're pretty spiritual, aren't you?
I feel like I cheated in my spirituality because of the Jesus encounters. I was not beforehand. I don't go to church. I'm not a Bible thumper, but Jesus came and shook me up.
So you're not religious, but you're spiritual.
I'm Christian. I'm Christian. I don't go to church. But I'm very Christian. People will say spiritual as if they're afraid to say Christian. I'm Christian, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because I would not have my sanity or my soul, I think, or be able to talk on this stuff and help the many thousands who have written me over the years if I didn't have those encounters. And, George, I'm going to have to, at some point, come forward about some of the healings that I've had from Jesus encounters. And if I wasn't a believer then, I mean, I've had way too much luck going on. Mm-hmm. Jesus is something else.
And the healings are done on you or other people?
On myself. It'll be another book. I'll save it for then.
Save it for another book.